Hey guys, another week of Come Follow Me. This is actually a really good one. I mean, not they're all good, but this takes you back to Joseph Smith's translation of Matthew, which is like a culmination. Mostly it's Matthew 24, but it's also verses taken from other places in Matthew, which you can read, like just a couple, but it's mostly Matthew 24, and it just expounds in much greater detail, so it's really cool. Matthew 24 to 25 are in Mark 12 to 13 and Luke 21. Now you'll notice in here again as well that there will be overlap, and what you're reading is the things that we've mentioned before. So we're not going to talk about them again because we've already talked about them. So we're going to talk about some new things and some highlights from this week. And again, as always, I prayerfully select what I think is going to be the best for everyone that's listening. And we've got 3 parables to cover and one really awesome story to learn from, and then literally just talking about when Jesus comes again. So there we go. So let's start off in Luke 21. So they're not in like chronological book order, and not necessarily even in chronological order, but they just fit well in the way we teach. So let's look at Luke 21 verses 13 through 15. Have my scriptures upside down there. So this also ties in with Matthew 24. And the Joseph Smith Matthew, which is said. So in verses 5 to 6, he talks about the temple destruction in Jerusalem, that it's happened before and it will happen again, because they were like, oh, how is this, because this is right after the widow cast her termites, and that's actually at the end of our insight. So this is not exactly in order, but this is about the second coming, and he's just teaching here how it's going to be. So some people were talking about the temple, how it was really adorned, and he's like, there's a day coming where it's going to be destroyed, and like, it would take a lot to destroy it, and yet, how long after that did the Romans actually destroy it? They did, for the second time, because remember, it got destroyed in Lehi's time as well, when he left, and the temple got destroyed then, and we covered that quite interestingly well in last year's study. So, if you want to know what that is, message me and I'll give you the links to those scriptures. But yeah, really interesting stuff. It's a massive building. It would be very hard to destroy. It's not like a tent temple like Moses had, that you could literally, go push over, even though they put those pegs in pretty deep. So I don't know that I'd be able to push it over, but maybe some of you would. So it's pretty thing. So they were like, oh my gosh. And then he starts talking about earthquakes and those kind of things that have happened, and all the stuff that's going to happen. And you can read all of this, and when we get to Revelation, it's going to be even more, because that's in there as well. It can make you feel really scared. But here's the thing, and this is what I like, in 13 to 15. And this is like the hope and the strength of this whole warning. It says, and it shall turn to you for a testimony. Settle it therefore in your hearts, not to meditate before what you shall answer. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom, which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. Now, if you want to look at gainsay, you look at the footnote. So your enemies won't be able to speak against you or contradict you or oppose you. So in these scriptures, we've got Matthew 24, Joseph Smith Matthew, Revelation, and also sprinkled throughout the Doctrine and Covenants. There's also places in the Book of Mormon that talk about this as well. But those are the best places to study the second coming of Christ and the events preceding that event of him coming again. So what I love in all of Christ's admonition here, to prepare, because he's always like, prepare this, prepare every needful thing, where he goes, prepare. But here he says what? Don't prepare what to speak. And you're like, but you're all about preparation. So rather, it's going to be given to us in the moment. Now we read that also in Doctrine and Covenants 24 verse 6, where he's like, don't worry, do you prepare what you're going to travel with, you prepare, get led by the Spirit, because you're going to be led to some different places. You don't need to prepare what you're going to speak. Now, not as in don't do any study or pray about it, there's that preparation, but don't write out a big talk or a big sermon, because you just need to prepare generally in life, and that leads right into the parable of the 10 virgins, which is insight number 2, which we'll get to in a second. But it's that daily preparation of filling your lamp with that oil, that will give you those things, that those things will be brought to your mind when you need to talk to them. Whatever given situation you end up being in, whether it's a work colleague has a question, and you can get to know, like, how much do they really want to know? Do they want a simple answer, or do they want the in-depth one? Are they standing there looking at their watch going, you really didn't need a half-hour lecture, mate? Or did they really interested? And we'll get to know that, and you can teach them little bit by little bit. But that's what he's saying here. Like, you don't need to worry about what you're going to have to say. He's going to give you a mouth. Like, he's going to give you the words. He's going to give you that wisdom. If you do the study, that's the preparation part of the study, but you don't need to have all these notes carrying with you. Because oftentimes we don't even have our scriptures with us. Well, we do on our phone now, but, like, if we can give an answer from, you can pretty much answer any question about the church back to the Articles of Faith. Pretty much. Any question. That's our beliefs. It's pretty cool. Anyway. It teaches here so rather it is given us in the moment the wisdom and ability to speak what is needed. This is only effective, though, if we know Christ through daily relationship. That's the key. In order to hear him clearly. So if we're to hear him through the Holy Ghost, we need to be living and keeping our covenants and living daily to bring that oil into our lamps, as I said. So that's that daily relationship with Christ. So he goes on to illustrate how important knowing Christ is by 3 parables in Matthew 25. And that's coming up next. But Howard W. Hunter said, we must know Christ better than we know him. We must remember him more often than we remember him. We must serve him more valiantly than we serve him. And it's interesting that comes from a prophet, because you'd think, the prophet's probably at capacity for all those things. And even he said, I can do more. So it's really good to think. And it's not that we have to do all of it all at once, but we could each do more. I know I could do a whole lot more. There's things I could do that I could do better, and I'm working on it. But the effort is key there. You're working on it. We're trying to do more. You're working on it. But it's that knowing Christ by daily relationship. So this is a good pre-warning as we get into all these like doomsday events and the end of the world kind of things and talk, is to actually not be afraid of it. It's actually a good thing. And yes, we prepare like physically as best we can, and we keep food storage, we do all those things, and people can get so intense in talking about it. But it's okay. He's going to look after us. He's got our backs. He's going to be with us through it. And he's like, as we said there, he said, I'll give you a mouth and wisdom. So, he tells us we don't need to meditate on what to say. He'll give us that in the moment. What should we be meditating on then? Not that. Let's meditate on something else. We've got that time. And he'll give you a mouth and wisdom. It's an interesting way to put it. But he will give us the words to speak and the wisdom if we do that preparation of living daily in relationship with Christ to have that knowledge. And that's pretty much as it is. So we've got that hope there. We know. Yeah. So there we go. All right. Hang around for number 2. We're going to start into Matthew 25 and the first of the parables there. I'll see you there.